make it a couple of videos probably. Well, this will be one video with two subjects. Hafladay and Anaconda-vod. So I have seen part of the Anaconda-vod. I haven't seen the Hafladay video, but it's another stupid title. You will accept premise 1 asserts inmendham. We don't understand how argument works. So argument is that you have a theory, a proposition, and you state your proposition, and then somebody makes a counter-argument explaining why it can't be true. Like if I'm going to argue with a theist, I present evidence why their theology is mistaken, why the theory that the 2,000-year-old story is meaningful is nonsense. And I point those things out, and I point out the alternative theory and why it's stronger. You haven't done any of that, you silly person. Anyway, so this is an interesting video, though. Absolute red button. And it's just interesting in the sense that the social contract versus absolute morality or absolute ethics or absolute value or absolute truth is always interesting, right? I mean, if Adolf Hitler was walking among us, a good citizen, might do us a favor and whack him. You can't say that good citizen would be wrong. You'd be wrong in the sense that he violated the social contract, and we can't violate the social contract without being punished because we need to have a deterrent against violating the social contract. But I'd still agree with the guy and say, wow, you're a great citizen. You've done us a great favor. It's that kind of thing. It's like, I was going, I'll use the story of Typhoid Mary, for example. Now, she was obstinate and wouldn't accept the truth that she was a carrier of typhoid. And she was asked to stop doing this, stop being a cook because you're killing people. And she refused. And she killed people. And then, so if you knew that she was going out to do it again, because they let her, because they didn't want to, it's a tricky crime to define, and you whacked her, well, I'd say hero. But again, you're violating the social contract. You're violating the rules of civil order. We can't have civil order if people are whacking each other. But the fact that it's right to whack the evil is just the truth. There's bad people. There's people who will cause harm. And the world would be better off without them. Just the truth. And so I could say my list of people who need killing is, in the billions. it is. Even if I wasn't an anti-natalist, I'd just say for the sake of society, they should be whacked because they're a threat. They're a threat to the future.
Imagine somebody with no friends, no family, sort of living a rather atomistic or anomic life.
Atomistic and anomic. Yeah, I guess you can use whatever words you want, but I don't even know why you would. You could have just said lonely. So eliminate the idea that there's some sort of collateral damage. But isn't that an interesting word, right? Because you could argue that we commit murder all the time, and we declare war, and we accept collateral damage. And obviously the collateral damage is basically a murder. I mean, they didn't commit a crime. They're getting killed because you're doing something overtly aggressive. And we say it's okay. It's okay to kill them, whack them, because we got the bad guy. And they're acceptable losses. So yeah, I mean, clearly, look, the Christians used to stone people to death for adultery. I mean, so what the fuck? The Christians used to burn witches. The Inquisition killed you for not believing in God. I mean, the silly crimes that we have killed people for over history. And yeah, the real crime, in my opinion, is you get pregnant and your house is on top of a garbage dump and you don't get an abortion. That's the real criminals. People who perpetuate the horror, the worst of it. People who have kids when they know they have a genetic defect. These are people that need whacking.
If I were to walk up behind that person with a 12-gauge shotgun and scatter their brains all over the street without any warning or them even being aware that I'm about to do it.
Yeah, a really quiet steamroller will do the job too, right? 50 mile an hour quiet steamroller.
But would you have an objection to that?
Yeah, it really depends on the person, right? If the person is doing good work, goes to work every day at some thought tank, trying to conceive of a mechanism to cure cancer or something, yeah, I'd say no, don't whack him. He's a good guy. He's on our side, kind of thing. But yeah, if he's somebody who's a threat, well then whack him. And if he's somebody in between, better safe than sorry. Yeah, whack him.
The red button brings into question our view, if you ask me, of murder itself.
Whatever. Our view. So again, see, you're always trying to reduce this into something, some sort of notion, and so it's like your notion against other people's notion or something. It's just they have a view and you have a view and blah blah blah. Yeah, and so yeah, there's a great range of description of what people would call a threat. People would consider me a threat to some value of theirs, the precious life on Earth. And that perception can be real, but it can also be stupid. So I guess the only thing I would say is just be sure you're right. Right? Isn't that all that really counts? You have to be really confident. And if you're really confident, well then you do the right thing. I mean, I wish I had the courage to tell you the truth, but I don't. I don't want to go to jail. So yeah, I don't whack all the bad guys that need whacking because I don't want to go to jail. But that's the only reason why I don't do it. I mean, I'd be certainly, like I said, the world needs to be saved from the thieves and the. I mean, just the fucking assholes in India right now on the telephone going, "I'm from Windows." Those fuckers, okay? They need a droning, okay? They need to be droned. People who will sell out to being a thief, okay, because they're poor. Well, I'm never going to be poor enough to do that.
Why is murder, in and of itself, bad?
Because it's a social contract. Again, it's just logic. Okay, everybody has these opinions. Okay, Muslims hate Jews. Jews hate Muslims. Gary hates everybody. I mean, everybody has a list of people who they think need whacking. It's just the truth. And we all can't act on our list or we all get whacked. So it's just a mechanism to maintain civilization or social order. But that's it. So it has to be important. You have to protect against people rampantly acting on their own confidence. Yeah, you can't do that. You can't let them act on their own confidence. I mean, it's like, look, I could be confident I could build a good enough nuclear power plant in my backyard. I could be confident that I could handle it. But does that confidence mean anything, especially if I poison a bunch of people? Come on, not that difficult.
Or, even more interesting, is it bad according to you?
Well, like I said, I don't think anybody would say it's bad if, like I said, you're murdering Adolf Hitler. If you're murdering somebody who's an overt threat to cause a great deal of harm, then it's a good murder. It's a good killing. I guess the word murder just doesn't mean much. And I guess it sort of should be reserved for what we classically know as murder, which is, it's not even for a philosophical experiment. You know what I'm saying? Murders are just silly emotional things that people do to each other. So they're overtly silly. They're overtly unprincipled and undisciplined. And then when you think about like some idiot whacked an abortion doctor. I mean, those guys are just so fucking stupid, right? For a 2,000-year-old, to preserve the integrity of a 2,000-year-old fable, and to protect a fetus that is less conscious than the mice we torture every day. I mean, just the illogic of it alone. It's just such an illogical cause. I mean, obviously, there's just way too many people who think they're right, and they have no right to think they're right. I mean, nothing. No logical grounding at all. Yeah, big smile, blah, blah, blah. I'm playing with the word murder now. Yeah, well, it's not much of a game. Because, like I said, that jig is already up. I guess I'd just say, I don't think, you know, it's quite obviously, like I said, every day we accept paralyzing kids to have the game football. We accept it. We accept putting them in, we kill them. We kill some of them. But we accept putting them in wheelchairs for football. I mean, come on. A murder? You're gonna impress me with a concept of murder when we do that? Come on. Batteries in nuclear power plants, you know? $5 worth of batteries. Ooh. Yeah. Oh no, let it melt down instead. That's the kind of decisions people are making every fucking day. There's some asshole. I'm from Windows. Next video. Awful a day. This is such a fucking. I don't want to insult cows, but yeah, he's got the brain of a cow. Sensations, feel it. What are you talking about? Suffering, torture. What are those things? Pathetic. 16 minutes.
I don't know how inmendham has the gall to call me a liar.
Well, the gall is quite easy to find because you're a despicable, disgraceful liar. Again, it can't be made any clearer. You know, your trespass against a reasonable paraphrase of a belief system. It's disgusting. You haven't gotten a single point correct.
Because, well, let's see how this goes. I say something like, and he says, like, you don't know anything about like.
Oh, whatever. That's not. What use is this nonsense? Now you're going to do another one of your fake performances? Why don't you play the video? Because I didn't do anything like that. I pointed out that when you sit there and say, I accepted your premises, not as a subjective truth. Well, you never did that. It's not the truth. You never accepted that it is sentience, it is the feelings themselves that have value. And you certainly haven't refuted that conceptually feelings have value.
You think it's all about what we like, blah, 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 blah. And then he says, you can't tell the difference between nail in the eye.
And but this is like so preposterous. So do some more misparaphrasing to cure the accusation that you can't correctly paraphrase. That's just too fucking stupid.
Cupcake. And I interject and I say, oh, no, I know the difference between nail and the eye. I don't want it, and I want cupcake.
And what you can't seem to be able to say is yes, I understand that is universal to all sentient organisms. All sentient organisms have a concept of harm and pain and suffering and torture, and these things happening would be as bad for them as it is bad for you. As much as you can imagine how horrible it would be for you to have that happen, it is as equally horrible for it to happen to them. There. That's asking too much. This idea that other people are conscious is just asking way too much.
Clearly the context is talking about the first person, and I'm saying yes, from the first person point of view, I prefer...
No, you keep saying to me. I'm exactly quoting you, okay? The exact quotes to you is to me. It matters to me. Okay, and you emphasize those words, right? And then you said things like, what's in it for me? You said that. And then you said things like, why should I care? Those are the things you've said. Why should I care? So if there's a nail in somebody else's eye, you are asking me rhetorically, why should I care? and I answered the question of why you should care. Is because the thing happening is exactly the same as if it was happening to you, you stupid fuck.
Cupcake, nail in the eye, bath. And then the next video on, he says, but you don't, you think it's all about you, blah, 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 blah. You don't understand that nail in the eye of any sentient is worse. They want cupcake too. And I say, no, yeah. No, I understand for them too. The context is that they too would appreciate the cupcake more than nail in the eye.
Right, so there you have the value then, right? I mean, you certainly understand it for yourself. You certainly understand it would be perfectly irrational for you to choose to have nail in the eye. That would be irrational. Would you? Well, there's no point in doing this. He's not really conceding the point. He's not conceding the point that it's intrinsically and fundamentally the character of the sensations. They carry the negativity in and of themselves. They don't need to have it qualified by something. They are in and of themselves the generator of the negative. The feeling is the root kernel of the negative.
And he goes, no. You don't understand. In the universe that it exists, that the sentient creates value.
Okay, now this will be good, right? Okay, that is. If you want to reduce it to reduce it to the simplest key point, that would be the key point. Yes, that sentient organisms are value. There's no value created without them. There's no value in the universe. There's no need to do anything. There's no urgency. There's no requirement. There's no significant event without the sentient organism. It generates value. So yes, let's hear your counter argument. Let's hear what your alternative reasonable theory is.
This has gone on for years now, and I don't know why if he understands my position as I understand his, why he has to repeat this.
Well, because I'm saying to you, look, if I come to you with a theory, your obligation is to come up with either give me a better theory, which I'm saying, fuck you, your agency. Sorry, not even close. I desire to go have a milkshake, so it's okay if a kid gets cancer? No. I will impose on somebody else without their consent? No. You're not going to make any of this shit work. I'm saying what makes this impossible is the very fact that it's impossible to cut the strings between my existence and the existence of all these other things and my influence. And the fact is that we can see what it costs. The cost is visible to us now. We're not 2,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago. We can see it statistically.
Because I make the same points and always move to this end point. But he always starts at the beginning, calling me a liar, saying you don't understand cupcakes for yourself.
Well, look, I'm not going to go back and play your videos, but I can just go back to your beastie characterization. Where you discounted anything that isn't a human, fully human even. Genetics. You're a genetic bigot, and that's dumb. Bigotry is dumb. Okay.
And then I say, oh yeah, no cupcakes for me. And then he says, but you don't understand cupcakes for me. And I say, I understand. But cupcakes for everybody. And I go, yeah. And he doesn't understand.
Yeah, you don't go, yeah. So again, just a complete misparaphrase, it's just a lie of what the history has been. Again, if you're going to concede the fact that the value exists in the sentient organism, then again, you're going to have to explain how you apportion no value to the imbecile. Animals.
That at this end point he says it exists in the universe, and then he usually says something like, it matters. And this is the problem, the definition.
Right. Yeah, this is the problem, is that he's going to play a semantics game now, right? So now all of a sudden, the word bad and the word negative and the word destructive and the negative word harmful, all of a sudden now these words don't mean anything. They aren't significant words. They aren't significantly meaningful value words. They have no fundamental meaning. They're not well premised. I would argue they're fully premised in that all these words we use to describe sensate organisms in distress. So there can't be anything destructive or damaging or hurtful or any of that stuff without the sensate organism.
And I'm going to refrain, apart from this one time, it's been maybe successive, but generally I'm going to try to refrain from using the word arbitrary, because it brings with it some connotation of random, which if one isn't...
It brings a connotation, okay, that it's not grounded or founded in a reasonable observation and collation of evidence. Okay, arbitrary isn't something you call something that's evidence-based. I'm saying the evidence that of my, like I said, I can't tell you how any clearer. You will never convince me that there's no difference between these different sensations. And you will never convince me that if some other human is having one of these negative sensations, has a nail in their eye, that it's a good thing. So you're not going to convince me that a nail in my eye is just as good as a cupcake, and clearly you're not going to convince me that a nail in some other human's eye is a good thing, just like they were having a cupcake. That's never, ever, ever, ever going to happen because of my personal experience with consciousness. You're just never going to be able to do that. So what's the point, right? There's a philosophical void or gap that just can't be bridged because you don't have the same consciousness I have. Mine gives me complete certainty. There's absolutely no room for doubt that nail and eye bad, cupcake good. There's just no way to make it anything else. One has a plus sign, one has a minus sign, certainly. What the plus sign is made out of, the conversion of a negative, that's another subject. But clearly, one elevates the condition of a sentient organism, the other one degrades the conscious qualitative condition of the sentient organism. And that's all that matters. That's value. The grade, the amount of stuff, the level, that's the level.
Acutely aware of exactly what I mean impinges on the meaning of what I'm saying. So, but I'd say something like, but you're making an arbitrary definition. What I mean is, you're asserting a person is from his own personal insight asserting something which doesn't really have... Sorry about that. Which doesn't have any logical underpinnings in itself.
Okay, there you go. There you go. So he's telling me it's not logical, okay, for me to recognize. And that's all you have to do. I don't even have to think. I don't even have to add any more concepts. It's not logical for me to recognize the distinction between horrible pain and suffering of nail in the eye and the pleasure of a cupcake. It's not logical for me to recognize that as a fact. That's arbitrary. Sorry. This is just such a crock of shit.
Inmendham at this point would be screaming and saying, it's logical, it exists in the universe, it matters, which is just a repeat of what he would have already said.
Well, I'm just saying, what's your rational argument? Let me hear the rational argument. Explain to me how it doesn't, that there isn't a gulf of difference between nail in the eye and cupcake. Explain to me how it is insignificant, that it has no meaning. Explain that to me. Explain it to me, how my conscious experience doesn't have meaning, that it's not substantial, significant, um, it's an event. And I'm saying every other conscious organism, it's an event. It's happening. Yeah, I'm saying the words again. That's right. Explain to me how it's not. How I'm being deceived. Explain the deception. He won't do that.
And he has, to his credit, probably 100 different ways of saying it matters, it is value. By definition, then you ought. Blah, blah, blah. And
again, blah, blah, blah. He's blah, blah, blah. Like I said, I mean, so I say that that torture is substantially, significantly bad. Okay, so if a guy was to capture a woman, torture her for a year, rape her, murder her, whatever. A year of torture. I could just go back to the cliche Holocaust example. The bad is substantial. It is not trivial. It is not a blah, blah, blah. It's huge in terms of its significance.
This is the point of objection. This assertion is what is resisted as not self-evident.
Okay, so it's not self-evident. I'm sitting here saying, all right, let me imagine being starved to death in a concentration camp. I've seen my wife taken away, and I saw my kids murdered, shot. Now, if I imagine, and then I'm going to spend 2 years in a cold, filthy, lice-infested shithole and struggle to keep myself alive, because that's what the animal does. Now, imagining that. Now, he's saying to me, there's nothing logical in me finding that significantly, powerfully terrifying. That it conjures a revulsion, not only an emotional one, but an intellectual revulsion. The programming says, no, you can't go there. You can't let that happen. If that is a possibility, kill yourself. If that is realistically possible to happen to me in the next week, that I'm going to be captured by Nazis and thrown in a concentration camp to die, starve to death, yes, the brain would say, no, that's unacceptable. Do anything but that. And he's saying that's not logical. That's not a reasonable deduction.
You see, it is self-evident that I want to move away from the pain of nail in the eye. It's self-evident that the sentient animal wants to move away from pain.
It wants to move away. So he's converting it into a want when it's a revulsion. Do you see the trick he's playing here? He's turning it into some positive emotion when it is clearly a negative. The organism is driven away by a powerful recognition of the significance of the suffering. The suffering is so significant that the organism is driven, runs the fuck away.
In the eye. What isn't self-evident, so you have sentient animal nail, and you have my nail. Enemy of sentient animal, enemy of me. But this is my enemy, that is his enemy. And I seek to avoid this nail in the eye. It doesn't extend.
Well, again, it doesn't extend. Again, so he's, again, obligating you to feel somebody else's pain. You can't understand their pain. You can't acknowledge their pain. You can't respect their pain. You can't appreciate the existence of their pain. You can't acknowledge the negative weight of their pain. You can't accept the significant meaning, the matterness of their pain. No, you must feel it. Now, is that logical? Is that what an intelligence would say? Is that I must feel it? Doesn't that make it just subjective then? The whole point is that no, the objective truth is you can absolutely hate somebody and have sympathy for them. Those things are possible. It is possible to know that something deserves something terrible, and you rationally understand, well, don't do that though, because that just adds more pain to the universe, right? I mean, it's like the difference between eye for an eye and, turn your cheeks 70 times. I mean, I would argue that the preferable condition is, yes, protect the future from harm, protect it from continued abuse, prevent future transgressions, but punishing past transgressions that don't lead to prevention is just stupid. Even though it could be emotionally satisfying, it's dumb. That's what intelligence can do. Intelligence can inform you that sometimes your emotions are just petty and stupid, okay? And so you use your mind to understand somebody else's condition and recognize it for what it is. Bad.
In any way, logically, I take away my nail in the eye that, no, my enemy is this enemy.
Does that make any sense? A minute ago it wasn't an enemy, it was just another human being. And you're asking me why, if I don't feel anything, why should I care? You've said these words, right? Why should I care? The point is that you're just a brain on an individual body. Factually, you can understand that the individual psychology and body is no better than all the other psychologies and bodies, and that your brain should work for the welfare of all of them, because it gains the same thing. Fixing one of them, any of them, is the same as fixing yours. It's exactly the same. Curing somebody else of cancer is just as good as curing myself of cancer. It's just a fact. A fucking fact.
The sentient animal nail in the eye. Inmendham would say things like, it doesn't matter who's suffering. This is another assertion. Yeah?
Yeah, right. And so let's all just sit here and see what kind of convoluted bullshit he's going to come up with to say somehow it does matter. Somehow it makes a difference. That suffering somehow is different when somebody else is doing it. Do you really think, listener, do you really think that's true? Generally speaking? Because if you do, you're in big trouble, because then everybody else can just say your suffering doesn't matter. You get it? I mean, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work as a civil practice. It doesn't work intellectually. It only works if you're a fucking selfish child.
There is no basic difference in the neurological nervous system makeup between the sentience and the conscious human being. That's a given and a granted.
Well, okay. So how can you if you grant it, then you have to grant the ought. If you're going to ought for yourself, you have to ought for them, because you've just defined them as equal.
What doesn't follow from that non-essential difference is the
So non-significant, not non-essential, maybe isn't the right way to say that. So he's basically saying that non-significant difference.
mattering to me.
There we go, mattering to me. So again, he just did it. So you just define them as equal, and now somehow you said mattering to me. It's mattering, It's not mattering to you. Mattering is a fact. It matters. Okay? Something falls into the category, it matters. Not, it matters to Holiday. That's not how we define philosophy. I'm not going to, nothing personal, fuckface, but I'm not going to accept a philosophy that's got to Holiday written after every sentence. Yeah, I don't think you're the origins or the source of the truth. So I don't really give a fuck what matters to Holiday. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me. Not a goddamn fucking thing. What matters to me. What actually, factually matters.
For just as inmendham poses the question, what is the necessity or the need for Martians, non-existent Martians, then he cannot answer the question of why it matters to me. You can assert.
So again, why it matters, why what matters. So if the Martians were suffering, and they were like a dumb animal, just like a horse with a broken leg. So the dumb Martians, they're like horses, they're just dumb animals, and they're writhing on the ground because of some disease or something, and they're just all dying slowly. You do nothing. You just say, why should I give a shit? It's only a feeling organism in horrible pain. I mean, you know, I'm just going to say it again. I mean, my visit on planet Earth has been really quite revolting. But I just never, from the day I hatched onward, I never imagined people could be this fucking stupid or in denial or whatever this nonsense is. I could never, there was no point in my life where I was selfish enough or self-absorbed enough not to be able to recognize that if there's something in pain in front of me, there's a significant thing happening. Ever. I just don't know what kind of tree root, you know, they unearthed you trolls from. What kind of cesspool did they dig you out of? What kind of skanky vagina did you fall out of to have a philosophy this void of reasonableness?
All you like, that it has made value in the universe, and it matters. And what you're saying is it matters to you personally, but you can't.
Again, he's saying it matters to me personally again, right? I couldn't have made this any more clear. You can absolutely have contempt for people and realize something bad's happening to them. It's just absolutely stupid to have this argument. I have defended Muslims. I have defended, and I hate them. I hate the fucking religion. I hate everything about it. You know, but I've defended because it was a false prosecution. It was a false blame. But that's sort of over now. Yeah, I'm over that now. They really are all scum, right to the root. It's just a gutter religion. It just is. But I have the same opinion, like I said. The only difference between the Muslims and the Christians is that the Christians had to grow up 200 years ago, and the Muslims haven't been forced to grow up yet. But we really don't have the time to fucking wait 200 years for Muslims to grow up. I mean, it's the nuclear age. You really can't be this fucktarded in this world. It's just way too dangerous. But the truth is, all these religions had to be forced to grow up. I mean, you know, if we didn't force the Christians, they'd still be killing you for, you know, not being a believer. They'd be killing you for being a witch or a homo or some other kind of bullshit. They'd be just as out of control if we didn't force them to get it under control. Well, if civilization didn't force them.
Provide a logical argument for why it matters to me.
Well, again, you want to keep turning the matter word into something that's personal, and it's just not personal. It's just a fact in the universe. So again, if you're going to say that facts in the universe are something you personally interact with, again, I have no help for you. That's not philosophy. It just really isn't. That's like saying you define words based on how you feel about how they sound. You know, it's a good word or a bad word because of how it sounds to you. Would that be philosophy? No, it would be imbecilic.
So, I say there's no meaning in life. Joe Bloggs down the road says, premise one.
Okay, no meaning. So when he says there's no meaning to life, what does that mean? You're saying there's no value. That torture is indistinguishable from cupcake. That it doesn't matter how many people are tortured or how many people are eating cupcakes. It doesn't matter in the universe. It can only matter to people, and they are allowed to believe anything they want to believe. There's no logical rule saying, no, you really have to think that matters. And if you don't think that matters, you're logically insane. In reality, it matters. That's the argument. That's the ultimate truth. Intelligence sees it. If there was a supercomputer, the supercomputer at the end of the universe, having contemplated everything and digitized everything, would still tell you there's a world of difference between nail in eye and cupcake. That's what he would tell you. And it's a value difference. Come on, computer.
There is a God. If there is a God, then you must understand that he has made us to worship him, and that the purpose of life is to worship him, blah, 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 and carry out his biddings.
So again, he's comparing this philosophy that recognizes sentience existing as a condition of evolution, produced by evolution, created by evolution, and that it creates this value in the universe now. Value exists because of this creation of evolution. That's religion. That simple statement is religion. It's not logical deduction. It's not a logical, analytic statement. No, it's just dogma. It's just made up shit. No correlation to reasonable, no correlation to either evidence or reasonable combination of conceptual ideas.
I don't have to accept your premise if it has nothing else other than your personal feelings and insight.
Well, again, you're saying it has nothing else. Certainly my insight is part of the argument. I mean, the insight of recognizing the fundamental equality and recognizing what is undeniable to me, that there is a world of difference between nail and eye and cupcake, and the world of difference is made in value. It's a value difference. It's not a dog do difference. It's not a tree bark difference. It's not a man in the moon difference. It's a value difference.
And intuition to back it up.
Oh, shit. There we go again. What? Point out one statement of mine that's intuition. It is not intuition to observe that I can tell the difference, the world of difference between nail in the eye and cupcake. That's not intuition. The idea that I recognize that other sentient beings are having the same basic functional experience as me, that's not intuition. Where's the intuition in this argument? Point it out, you motherfucking liar.
You have to say something stronger, logical.
Well, like I said, I already pointed out I can't give you, okay, it written by a god on a rock. I can't even give you the supercomputer at the end of the universe saying, oh, fuck, you mean he needed this? He needed me to sign the fucking piece of paper saying it's true? You're fucking kidding me. He really did need that? What a fucking retard. That's what the supercomputer's going to say. I can't believe that guy was such a motherfucking stonehead retard. He sat there and expected me to go back in time and hand him a documented, certified note explaining that it's a value difference, fuckhead.
Other than intelligence sees it and repeatedly asserting that it matters. I know it matters.
Well, again, I can't. I know it matters because I'm conscious, you stupid shit. You can't be conscious and think it doesn't matter and be sane. That's my contention. So yes, I think you're fucking insane.
And you'll even say this, I'm 100% confident. You know, like that is an important qualification.
It's only an important qualification in the sense that you're giving me not even a tiny doubt. You're presenting no argument or evidence to give me any fucking reason to think it doesn't matter. That there isn't a world of value difference between nail in my eye and a cupcake, and that is the same fact for all the other sentient beings. That you haven't disputed with a single shred, sentence, word, anything. All you've done is say ad hominem bullshit things like, that's subjective, that's intuition. You haven't made an argument. You haven't defended that shit.
That I thought
arbitrary. It's arbitrary. That's all you've done.
But you had a bit of doubt. I'll rethink my position on my objection.
Again, I wasn't using my confidence as an expression of any of that. I was just pointing out that you're never, ever, 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 ever going to come up with anything, okay, to convince me that nail in the eye there isn't a world of value difference between nail in my eye and a cupcake. If I had a universe to make and I made the universe full of things with nails in their eye, it would be the most preposterously, insanely stupid thing possible, except making two universes like that. You couldn't be more of a fucktard than to do that. You have the choice of cupcake or nail in the eye. Oh, I'd choose nail in the eye for everyone. Yeah. That would get you the award as the stupidest thing in the universe ever.
Oh, I'm not 100% certain or something of the objection I make. If you can make logical qualifications.
Whatever. I don't have to. Like I said, I was at the scene. I was at the scene of the crime. Okay, you can come up with your voodoo crap and it was the Mexicans and it was this. It was drug lord. No, I saw OJ do it. You fucking idiot. He said, "Hey, I'm OJ." I was standing right there. All right. He introduced himself. He showed me a picture of his Heisman Trophy. Okay, I was there. You're not gonna. Fuck you. This is idiotic. You're wasting my fucking time. I'm going to argue about what color my skin is. I'm going to argue about what? Whether I hear with my ears and snot with my nose. I know what I'm doing here, shithead. You're not going to convince me my nose is my anus and my penis is my brain. Well, all right. That second part, never mind. That sometimes happens.
Then I'll assess those for what it is. But until such...
Fine. Until such, you remain unconvinced. Fine. I don't give a fuck. Alright? But that's not what you're doing. You're not saying, well, you just haven't convinced me, Gary. No, that's not what you're doing. You're accusing my philosophy of being subjective, some sort of impulsive, arbitrary, intuitional, emotional nonsense. That's your accusation, fuckhead, and you haven't defended that with a single solitary piece of evidence. You've just made the accusation. No evidence, nothing. Absolutely nothing for evidence.
I'm rejecting this premise. In your last week.
Oh, yeah. So he said he accepted the premise before, and now he's saying he rejects the premise. Correct? Is it any clearer there? Come
on. I was kind of pulling my hair out as usual, and how you seem to not understand the objection is that you make this premise one, that you make this definition within this premise one, and equivalently.
Well, whatever. It's the most significant fact that could possibly exist is what's the location of value? What is value made of? Yeah, that seems to me you can't have a more... there's nothing more important to pursue the truth of than the origins of value. I mean, there really isn't. It's like double gold. Everything else gets its value from how it affects sentient organisms. I said this before, but even gold wouldn't have any value if it didn't affect sentient organisms.
This means, as I've objected to before, that you are making a constant assertion that I don't feel obliged to take on board.
Well, again, that's not the argument, right? I'm not asking you to take it on board. I'm saying you're an insane imbecile. That's my opinion, okay? And I think I've defended that perception, that it's insane imbecility not to acknowledge that it's a value difference between nail in the eye and cupcake, and that value difference is happening in all the sentient organisms. It's fucking imbecilic and insane not to accept those statements. There's absolutely no evidence of any other possible reality. These are significant events happening. Consciousness is significant. It's fundamentally different than unconsciousness, and it's different in a powerful way. That is just a fact that if you don't accept, you're an insane imbecile.
As true. So I was pulling my hair out, thinking he didn't understand me at all, and I saw that he had gleaned one insight insofar as that I do value the agency of human beings insofar as, and I didn't fully...
Yeah, I know. Well, this is a whole separate subject because this is your silly philosophy, right? So, yeah, I think I've already discounted the substance of anything called agency. There is no free will. You're not an original organism in any way whatsoever. You're a byproduct of the shit that's happened to you in your life, and that's all you are. So this idea that you're the crap that you're an expression of somehow needs agency is nonsense. That crap that made me does not need agency. The truth needs agency. Facts need agency. They need defenders. All right? And you're against people like you. You're the enemy of the only things that are legitimate agents. The only things that need agency is the truth. It needs agents.
And I probably won't now, but I'll add to it. Agency being the ability to make decisions based upon reason.
Well, whatever. Again, it's a silly argument because this reason faculty is completely dependent on the knowledge base that the reasoning is being, that the reasoning is flowing out of. Reasoning is a byproduct of knowledge, just like kind of logic. So garbage in, garbage out. So why should you give agency to garbage in, garbage out?
Not one's emotional or biological responses.
Again, and I've made a ton of videos of saying exactly that. I don't place any value on intuition or emotional bigotries. Conditioning, no value whatsoever. So again, I'm the one making the argument that evolution doesn't program us very well. I'm the one saying it's insufficient. Jesus fuck.
So, yes, the Kantian position does value, as he puts it, back to front in his position. So you could object that I'm forcing this premise but I say far more about this reason than you do. Your alternative of back.
Well, whatever. I'm not going to argue this much. We already heard, all right? We already know what Kant did. I mean, there's no, your bigotry against other sentient organisms is on the record, okay? And it's a bigotry based on some sort of bias where you think if it can't add complex numbers, it can't feel. So again, what's the source of value? If it isn't about the feelings, then what else is there? There's nothing else. There's nothing else to value except the feelings.
From that there is created value. You repeatedly only assert this based upon similarity or symmetry within sentient species. And based upon the words used, there is no natural extension to say nail in the eye of Martian is a concern for me. Because
there we go, is a concern for me. As if it has to affect you in some personal way. That's not the point being made. The point being made is that if there's a damsel in distress, you go rescue her. The obligation is intellectually is the acknowledgement that if I would do it for myself, I have no reasonable excuse not to do it for them. No rational excuse. The only excuse could exist is selfish bigotry. I have selfishly bigoted myself against their reality and for my reality. And there's no logical reason to do that because the two things have been established as comparable. You said you accept the comparable premise, and again, now you're arguing against it. So what's the point? You're not comparable if you're saying to me. That's not what somebody who's accepted the comparable value doesn't go to me. That's not what somebody who has accepted the truth of the comparable value would say.
When you say it doesn't matter, the truth is, you walk out to anybody in the street and say, would you say it matters whether you get poked in the eye or somebody else get poked in the eye? And they'd say, yeah, fucking makes a world of difference to me.
To me. So again, this is philosophy. I'm supposed to write universal philosophical principles and have sentences, portions of the sentence should read to Hothliday. To Hothliday. That the truth goes through Hothliday's emotional character. That it isn't a truth until it's met with Hothliday's sanction. No, it's a truth. It's a statement of its absolute condition, its real condition. And the real condition is that if I'm doing it for me, I have to do it for it to remain rationally and logically consistent. To not be a bigot.
So the whole genesis of this conversation is based upon a common understanding and agreement about what it means to suffer personally.
No. There's no common understanding if you're going to sit there and say, we commonly understand that it's only a valuable experience when it's happening to me. That we don't commonly understand. I have explicitly stated exactly the opposite. That it doesn't matter if it's happening to me or them. I've said that explicitly. There is no distinction. So we don't agree. I'm not going to accept the idea that I personally have an interest. If the condition of me saying I have a personal interest means I'm going to say the personal interest of the other subjective organisms is meaningless. Of course it's meaningful. They're all meaningful. They all have personal interest. But it's irrelevant. The only important word is interest. The only important word is vulnerability. I'm vulnerable, they're vulnerable. My intellect must see them as effective equals. I don't have to act that way. I don't have to emotionally feel that way. But the truth is, that's how it is. My water stopped dripping. Which means I have to go out and fix the well house again. Ah, it's dripping. Okay, never mind. I hate living like this. Everything's like, just barely working around here. I mean, the contacts and everything's all burned up. Everything's all just barely working. So I have to spend all my time, checking this and checking that, and paranoid about this, paranoid about that. Ugh, it's terrible. I gotta fix some of this shit around here. Well, I have to fix this shit. But I mean, they have to give me the money to fix this shit.
And I understand that everybody suffers personally the same way. But
okay, so if it's the same way, can we just say that word over and over again and see what it really means? The same way. The same way. The same way. The same way. Now, why would I change that to me? The same to me. Why would I do that? How is it logical to do that? I'm not saying that's not what the animal wants to do, because the animal's a selfish cunt. I'm saying we're talking philosophy now. We're talking about what the truth is. And the truth is, to me, is bullshit.
from this personal perspective, and you can say, it doesn't matter, I can say it matters the world to me.
So again, the world to me, but they're not the same. They're not a world. It's not a world when it happens to them. It's a world when it happens to me, not a world when it happens to them. Well, then you're not accepting the premise of the same.
Right. So yeah. He said, "I've got it back to front. I'm asserting the value of sentience, of agency, as you put it." And he could question that and say, "Oh no." And this isn't even part of the argument. This isn't something I'm going to get into, because.
Yeah, well, whatever. So he's making some sort of argument that we're arguing different perceptions, but I'm saying, I don't see how the origin of value is in your subjective projections of value. That's what makes value. You see it, you feel it, you say it. Then it's valuable. No, it was valuable before you saw it. It was the sentient life has been on this planet for 500 million years. By your philosophy, I guess, it doesn't matter how many holocausts of horror went on. It doesn't matter how many of them were tortured. None of that could possibly matter because there was no human around to project value. So therefore, nothing happened. So even though there was this happening of sentience and consciousness, you just turn it all into rocks. They're not really alive anymore. They're not really meaningfully alive. We're meaningfully alive. They are not. Why? Because we can project value and they're dead. Sorry. That's just too, it's just so weak as a counter argument or a counter philosophy.
And I have just and a long history of saying a great deal more about this reason, and Kant has wrote about it, about this whole alternate way of thinking, which, to my opinion, supports this. But this has never been.
Yeah, it's all just social contract bibble babble. It has nothing to do with the truth or reality. It has nothing to do with the real truth and consequences of existence as a sentient organism. You will not find ethics in your projections and your godlike I'll declare value. I won't discover value.
Question issue between inmendham and I. The question has been whether he is prepared to say anything more about wishes to cram down my throat.
Yeah, I just wish to cram down your throat the same, 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 the same. It's almost out of time. The same, 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 the same. Really is almost out of time. The same, the same. Should be. Oh no, we got another 3 minutes.
Bold assertion, but he wants to start with as premise one and think that he's entitled to say, because I made a premise, I'm working logically, yes, to an extent.
Yeah, an undisputable, unrefutable, undeniable premise. The premise is not reasonably disputed, not reasonably rejected, there is no reasonable alternative theory.
But it doesn't make the argument true. In fact, when you say the argument is your premise one, that is completely wrong. You're forcing the premise one. You're making...
Well, again, there's no other way to do it. Again, there's no way to articulate an explanation of what we learned through being sentient. I can't really explain to you the world of value difference. It's there. I understand it through experience. I can't explain it to you in any other words than to say I have experienced these sensations and I am certain of their difference. And again, I'm certain that I'm not the center of the universe, that I'm not the only world that is doing this consciousness thing and producing this value sensation.
No argument for each one.
Beyond what I just stated, which I think is a pretty solid argument. It seems an uncrackable deduction. It seems an uncrackable description of what I am experiencing as a conscious being in the universe. It is the thing most easily grasped in my reality.
What you've said, I see sentience, I feel, they feel, it doesn't matter who feels. Yes, it does matter who feels.
There we go. So they're not the same. So see, he said they're the same. I accept the premise. No, you don't. They're not the same. There you go.
Feels. That's the question. Does it matter who feels? You say not. I say yes, it does.
In and of itself, it matters. So without doing some crap about who's taller or who's fatter, you say it matters. In and of itself. Just because it's him and not me. That's the only difference between him and me. Is I'm me and he's him. But there's no other difference. And you're telling me that there's some reason or cause to say it matters if it happens to me and it doesn't matter if it happens to him. Sorry. That is logically flawed.